I watched my daughter's hands shake as she stared at her phone screen, her face drained of color. The bank had frozen everything. Her business account, my $75,000 investment, gone. "Mom, I don't understand," Jessica whispered, her voice cracking in a way I hadn't heard since she was a little girl. We were sitting in her tiny Brooklyn apartment, surrounded by boxes of inventory for her new skincare company. She'd spent 3 years developing the formula, another year getting FDA approval, and now, just weeks after I'd written that check, Chase Bank had decided to destroy everything. The email on her screen was cold, corporate, meaningless. Account closed due to suspicious activity. Funds held pending investigation. No timeline, no explanation, no recourse. I'd pulled that money from my retirement account. $75,000 that was supposed to carry me through my 70s now vanished into some banking black hole. My late husband Tom would have been furious. Not at Jessica, never at her, but at me for being so trusting. "Get it in writing, Helen," he'd always said. "Never trust a handshake anymore." But this was our daughter, our baby girl who'd worked herself sick trying to make something of her own. "We'll fix this," I said, reaching for her hand. "We'll call them right now." That was 6 weeks ago. 6 weeks of hell I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. The first representative Jessica spoke to was named Brandon. He sounded young, bored, reading from a script. "I understand your frustration, ma'am, but for security purposes, I cannot discuss the specific reasons for account closure." "But it's my money," Jessica said, her voice tight. "My business. I haven't done anything wrong." "I understand, ma'am. However, once an account is flagged, the fraud prevention team must complete their review." "How long does that take?" 2 to 3 business days, typically. 3 business days became 5. 5 became 10. Every call got the same response. The same script, the same empty promise that someone would call back. Nobody ever did. I started calling too. I figured maybe they'd listen to a 67-year-old woman, maybe show some respect to someone from their own generation. I was wrong. "Mrs. Patterson, I see here that you're not an authorized user on this account," the representative told me on my 4th call. Her name was Michelle, and she sounded like she was reading the news. "That's my daughter's business. I'm an investor. That's my retirement money you're holding." "I understand, but I can only speak with the account holder." "My daughter has called you people 17 times. 17! Nobody gives her a straight answer." "I apologize for any inconvenience, Mrs. Patterson, but our fraud prevention policies are designed to protect all our customers." "Protect us from what? We haven't committed fraud." "I can't discuss the specifics of why an account is flagged." I hung up before I said something I'd regret. The stress was eating Jessica alive. She'd already signed contracts with 3 retailers who were expecting product deliveries within the month. She had manufacturers waiting for payment. She had a lease on a small warehouse space in Queens that was due in 2 weeks. Everything depended on accessing that money, and Chase had locked it away like we were criminals. "Mom, maybe I should just accept it's gone," Jessica said one night, her voice hollow. We were on our 15th call that week, waiting on hold for 40 minutes just to be transferred 3 times and disconnected. "Absolutely not," I snapped. "That's your future they're stealing. That's my nest egg. We're not giving up." But privately, I was terrified. I'd pulled that $75,000 from my 401k, paid the penalties and taxes, bringing it down to about $60,000 in actual cash. It was a third of everything Tom and I had saved over 40 years of marriage. If it was truly gone, I'd have to sell the house in Westchester, move into some grim studio apartment in a neighborhood where ambulance sirens sang me to sleep every night. Jessica had 3 kids, my grandchildren, ages 8, 6, and 3. Her husband Mark worked construction, good money but irregular. They were counting on this business to give their family stability, to let Jessica work from home and be there for the kids. Now she was crying in the bathroom at 2 in the morning, trying not to wake the children, while Chase Bank's automated system played jazz music at us. On day 23, Jessica finally got someone different. Not a customer service representative, but someone from the fraud department itself. a man named Robert Chen who actually sounded human. "Miss Patterson, I've reviewed your case file," he said. "I'm going to be straight with you, because you've been jerked around long enough." Jessica put him on speaker. I leaned in close. "Your company registration threw up red flags in our system. Specifically, the way your LLC is structured. Your registered agent, the ownership breakdown, some of the language in your articles of organization, it matches patterns we see in shell companies used for money laundering." Jessica's face went white. "But I didn't. My lawyer set all that up. I just signed where he told me to sign." "I believe you," Robert said. "I've read your business plan. I've seen your FDA documentation. This clearly isn't a scam, but our automated systems don't know that. They just see the pattern." "So fix it," I said, probably too sharply. "You're a human being with a brain. Override the computer." "It's not that simple. Chase policy prohibits us from disclosing fraud triggers because it would help actual criminals learn how to avoid detection next time." "So you knew this whole time?" Jessica's voice rose. "All those calls, all those people who told us they couldn't help, they knew?" "The frontline reps don't know. The system just tells them the account is flagged. But yes, the fraud department knew, and company policy is to never reveal the specific triggers." "That's insane," I said. "I don't disagree, but I could lose my job for even having this conversation." He paused. "Here's what you need to do. Contact the lawyer who set up your LLC. Tell him Chase flagged your structure. He'll know what that means. He can file an amendment to change the registration. Once that's done, call me directly at this number, not the main line, and I'll push your case through." Jessica was scribbling down the number. "And then you'll release the money?" "I'll do everything I can. I can't promise anything, but this is your best shot." The call ended. Jessica immediately phoned her lawyer, a guy named David Weissman, who worked out of a cramped office in Midtown. He sounded annoyed when she explained the situation. "Chase flagged your structure? That's ridiculous. I've set up hundreds of LLCs exactly like yours." "Well, they flagged mine," Jessica said. "Can you fix it?" "I mean, yeah, I can amend the articles, change the registered agent to you instead of my service, restructure the ownership language. It'll take about a week to process with New York State." "A week?" Jessica's voice cracked. "I don't have a week. My warehouse lease is due in 3 days. I have vendors expecting payment." "I'll expedite it. Best I can do is 3 business days." Those 3 days felt like 3 years. Jessica couldn't sleep, she couldn't eat, she snapped at her kids over nothing, then cried about it afterward. Mark tried to help, offering to take out a personal loan, but they were already stretched thin with their mortgage and car payments. My savings wouldn't cover another emergency. I called Robert Chen twice during those 3 days, just to make sure he hadn't forgotten us. The first time, he assured me he was watching for the registration update. The second time, he sounded tired. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm doing everything I can, but you need to understand, even with the amended LLC, my supervisors might not approve the release. Chase is very risk-averse right now. We've had major fraud losses this quarter." "So we're just collateral damage?" "I didn't say that." "But that's what we are." I felt something hard and cold settling in my chest. We're numbers on a spreadsheet. Nobody cares that this is a real person's life. "I care," he said quietly. "That's why I called you back. That's why I'm breaking policy to help. But I'm just one person in a very large machine." The LLC amendment came through on day 28. Jessica called Robert immediately. He put her on hold for 15 minutes, the longest 15 minutes of my life, and then came back. "Okay, I submitted the release request to my director. She wants additional documentation. Bank statements from your personal accounts for the last 6 months, copies of your business contracts, letters from your vendors confirming the legitimacy of your orders." "Are you kidding me?" Jessica shouted into the phone. "How much more do I have to prove?" "I know, I'm sorry, but she's not comfortable releasing $75,000 without more proof that this isn't fraud." We spent the next 2 days gathering documents. Jessica's bank statements, Mark's bank statements, contracts with the 3 retailers, letters from her skincare manufacturer in New Jersey, invoices for the warehouse space, even a letter from her pediatrician, confirming she had 3 children, as if that somehow proved she wasn't a criminal. I drafted a letter myself, explaining my work history, 40 years as an elementary school teacher in Westchester County, retired with a clean record and a modest pension. I included my retirement account statements, showing where the $75,000 had come from, my tax returns for the past 3 years, even a copy of Tom's death certificate from 2 years ago, because maybe they'd have sympathy for a widow trying to help her daughter. We sent everything to Robert. Another 3 days of silence. On day 34, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, so many spam calls these days, but something made me pick up. Mrs. Patterson, this is Amanda Reeves. I'm the regional director for Chase Fraud Prevention in New York. My heart started hammering. Yes? I've reviewed your daughter's case. I've seen all the documentation. I believe this is a legitimate business situation. So you'll release the money? I'm authorizing the release, yes. But Mrs. Patterson, I need you to understand something. Your daughter's company is permanently blacklisted from opening any Chase accounts in the future. If she tries to open another account with us, it will be automatically rejected. I don't care, I said. She can bank somewhere else. We just need the money back. The funds will be transferred to your daughter's personal account within 24 to 48 hours. I called Jessica. She burst into tears. Mark took the phone and thanked me over and over, his voice thick. The kids were cheering in the background, not understanding what was happening but feeding off their parents' relief. But 48 hours came and went. No transfer. Jessica called Robert. He didn't answer. She called Amanda Reeves. The number went to voicemail and nobody returned the call. She called the main Chase line and got transferred 6 times before someone told her they couldn't see any release authorization in the system. We're back to square one, Jessica said, her face gray with exhaustion. They lied to us. No, I said, we're not giving up. Get dressed. We're going to a Chase branch in person. Mom, they don't handle fraud cases in branch. They've told us that 100 times. I don't care what they told us. Someone is going to look us in the eye and explain why they're stealing from us. We drove to the Chase branch on 5th Avenue, the big flagship one. Jessica brought all the documentation in a thick folder. I brought my rage. The branch manager was a polished woman in her 40s named Karen Foster. She smiled at us with the kind of customer service warmth that doesn't reach the eyes. I'm so sorry for your frustration, but fraud prevention cases can only be handled by our specialized department. There's nothing I can do from a branch level. Call them, I said, right now. Call Amanda Reeves and ask her why she authorized a release 5 days ago and the money still hasn't moved. Karen's smile tightened. I don't have direct access to that department. Then find someone who does. We're not leaving until someone explains what's happening. Mrs. Patterson, I understand you're upset, but if you're unwilling to leave the branch, I'll have to call security. Jessica grabbed my arm. Mom, let's go, isn't helping. But I was done being polite, done being patient, done watching my daughter crumble under the weight of bureaucratic cruelty. Call security, I said to Karen. Call them right now. And when they get here, I'll explain very loudly to everyone in this branch how Chase Bank is stealing $75,000 from a legitimate business. I'll make sure every customer here knows exactly what kind of company they're trusting with their money. Karen's professional mask cracked. Ma'am, please lower your voice. No, you people have been lying to us for over a month. You've destroyed my daughter's business. You've stolen my retirement savings. And nobody, not one single person in your massive corporation has shown us 1 ounce of human decency. Other customers were watching now. An older man in a suit, a young couple with a stroller, a teenager waiting to open his first account. I saw Karen glance at them nervously. Let me make some calls, she said finally. Please wait here. She disappeared into a back office. Jessica and I sat in uncomfortable chairs in the waiting area, not speaking. My hands were shaking. I couldn't tell if it was anger or fear or just exhausting. 15 minutes later, Karen emerged with a phone. Mrs. Reeves from Fraud Prevention would like to speak with you. I took the phone. This is Helen Patterson. Mrs. Patterson, I apologize for the delay. There was a processing error. The release was authorized but didn't get properly submitted to our accounting department. I'm fixing that right now. When will the money transfer? By end of business today. You said that before. I understand your skepticism, but I'm watching the transaction process in real time right now. You should see the funds by 5 p.m. today. And if we don't? Silence. Then Amanda said, "You will." We left the branch. I didn't believe her. I couldn't let myself believe anymore. Every time I did, they crushed that hope under their corporate boot heel. But at 4:47 p.m., Jessica's phone dinged. A text from her bank. Deposit received $75,000. She showed me the screen, her hands shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. I pulled her into a hug, and we both cried right there on a Manhattan sidewalk while hundreds of strangers rushed past us. The money was back. The nightmare was over. Except it wasn't. Not really. Jessica's business launched late. She lost one of her 3 retail contracts because she couldn't deliver on time. The manufacturer kept her on, but with stricter payment terms. 50% upfront now instead of the 30% they'd originally agreed to. The warehouse lease was salvaged, but just barely, and the landlord no longer trusted her. She did eventually get the business running. Her skincare line is actually doing well now, 8 months later. She's profitable, making enough to pay herself a small salary and cover expenses. She even paid me back, my full investment plus $500 a month in interest, just like we'd agreed. But the damage was done. The stress aged her. She's only 39, but she looks older now, harder. The easy laugh she used to have, the optimism that made her want to start a business in the first place, Chase Bank killed that. And my retirement savings? Back in my account, sure, but I'll never feel secure again. I know now how fast everything can disappear, how helpless we are when the systems we depend on decide we're suspicious. I'm looking at my bank statements differently now, wondering what invisible algorithm is judging me, what arbitrary rule might suddenly lock me out of my own money. Jessica banks with a small credit union now. They don't have fancy apps or thousands of ATMs, but when she calls, she talks to the same 3 people every time, and they know her name. It's old-fashioned, almost quaint. It's also the only way she sleep at night. Sometimes I think about Robert Chen, the one person in that entire corporation who treated us like human beings. I hope he didn't get fired for helping us. I hope there are more people like him working in those buildings, fighting the machines from inside. But I'm not counting on it. I've learned that institutions don't care about individual suffering. They care about risk management, liability, quarterly profits. We were always just numbers to them. Numbers that didn't add up right, so they deleted us from the equation. The American dream promises that if you work hard, play by the rules, and invest in your future, you'll be okay. But they don't tell you about the fine print, the algorithms, the corporate policies designed to protect the system rather than the people who depend on it. My daughter worked hard. She played by the rules, and Chase Bank nearly destroyed her anyway. We won in the end, I suppose, got the money back, built the business, but it doesn't feel like winning. It feels like we barely survived something that never should have happened in the first place. I'm 67 years old. Tom and I paid into this country for 40 years. We paid our taxes, voted in every election, volunteered in our community. We believed in the system. And the system looked at my daughter's legitimate business and decided she was a criminal, without trial, without evidence, without even the courtesy of an explanation. That's what keeps me up at night now. Not the fear that it might happen again, but the certainty that it's happening to someone else right now, and they might not have a Robert Chen to help them. They might not have a pushy mother willing to make a scene in a bank branch. They might just lose everything, and nobody will ever know or care. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Would you have handled this fight differently if it was your family's future on the line?